Have you ever felt like you've given so much of yourself to others, your time, your energy, your care, that by the time you finally think of yourself, there's nothing left? It's a truth we don't often talk about, but as we journey through life, many of us become experts at putting others first. We prioritize our families, our friends, and even our work, all while stretching ourselves thin, and we do it out of love, duty, and yes, sometimes out of a sense of obligation. But what happens when, as we grow older, we start to realize that the very things we sacrificed for others are the very things we need to keep for ourselves? After 65, it's time to ask, what truly matters now? This is where the timeless wisdom of Buddhist philosophy comes into play. It doesn't ask us to stop loving or caring for others. It simply asks us to turn our compassion inward and to find balance. Because in truth, you can't pour from an empty cup. In today's video, we're going to explore 6 things you should never sacrifice after 65. These aren't just pieces of advice, they're lifelines. They're about protecting your health, your peace of mind, and your freedom to live life on your own terms. But here's the catch. We often feel guilty for putting ourselves first, don't we? We fear that by setting boundaries or saying no, we might disappoint others, or worse, be seen as selfish. But what if I told you that by protecting these 6 things, you're actually giving the best gift not only to yourself, but to those you love? So take a moment, breathe deeply, let go of any guilt, and let's explore these 6 precious things that, after 65, you have every right to protect. And in doing so, you might just unlock a deeper sense of peace and freedom in your life. 1. Protect your health and physical well-being. As we grow older, our bodies inevitably change. These changes may be subtle at first, a bit of stiffness in the morning, an extra ache after a long walk, but over time they become more noticeable. For many of us, the physical demands of life become harder to ignore. Yet, even as our bodies speak to us, we often feel the pull to ignore their signals, to push through the discomfort for the sake of family, friends, or responsibilities. This is where Buddhist philosophy offers a different perspective. Buddhism teaches us to treat the body with kindness and respect, seeing it as the precious vessel that allows us to experience the world. The Buddha himself reminded us that the body, while a tool for our spiritual journey, is also fragile and requires care. But it's all too easy, especially as we age, to forget this. We've spent a lifetime giving to others, sacrificing our time and energy for loved ones, and now we often feel guilty about taking time for ourselves. Take the story of Emily, a woman in her early 70s, who had spent her entire life caring for others, her children, her grandchildren, and even her aging parents. She was always there when someone needed her. But one day, after a particularly busy few weeks of errands, helping her daughter move and organizing a family reunion, Emily noticed something alarming. She could barely keep her eyes open. Her body felt like it was on the verge of collapse. She realized she hadn't been listening to her body. She had ignored the aches and pains, the tiredness that kept mounting, thinking it was just part of being strong. And yet, as Emily learned, true strength doesn't come from ignoring the needs of the body. Strength comes from honoring those needs. She began practicing mindfulness in her daily routine, taking a few moments each day to sit in stillness, pay attention to her breathing, and check in with her body. It wasn't about being selfish, it was about self-care. She set boundaries around her time, prioritizing her health, and started to say no when she felt that helping others would compromise her own well-being. And as Emily began to care for herself more intentionally, something beautiful happened. Her relationships with her family improved. She no longer felt drained, and when she did offer help, it came from a place of strength and joy, not from obligation or exhaustion. In Buddhism, we speak of the concept of right effort, not exerting ourselves to the point of harm, but finding the balance that nourishes both our physical and mental well-being. It is a reminder that as we age, it is not selfish to protect our health. It is essential. By taking care of our bodies, we can better serve those we love and live with greater peace. Your health is sacred. It is not an indulgence, but a foundation for everything else in your life. So listen to your body, honor its needs. Remember that saying no to others sometimes means saying yes to yourself. You have the right to put your health first, and by doing so, you will not only extend your years but also enrich the quality of your life. 2. Set personal boundaries to protect your energy. As we age, we often find ourselves feeling the pressure of others' expectations. For decades, we've been there for people, whether it's our children, our friends, or our neighbors, offering a listening ear, a helping hand, or just a moment of our time. But what happens when you've given so much that you start to feel depleted? What happens when the constant requests for your time and attention leave you feeling drained, overwhelmed, and sometimes even resentful? Buddhism offers profound wisdom on this. The Buddha taught us that in order to live a balanced life, we must be mindful of our energy and set healthy boundaries. Just as a tree needs to root itself deeply into the earth to stand tall, we too must ground ourselves in self-respect and prioritize our own well-being. Boundaries are not walls. They are simply markers that define where your energy begins and ends. They are a way to honor both yourself and others. Consider the story of Bob, a 72-year-old retiree who for most of his life had been the go-to person for everyone. Whether it was watching his grandchildren, helping a neighbor with repairs, or lending a hand to a friend in need, Bob had always said yes. But as time went on, Bob began to notice something. He was no longer enjoying these activities. What once felt like acts of love and care now felt like burdens. One afternoon, after another grueling day of running errands for others, Bob sat down to reflect. He realized that he was giving so much of himself that there was little left for the things that brought him joy, like his morning walks, or simply enjoying a cup of tea in peace. It was in that quiet moment of reflection that Bob understood to truly love and serve others, he had to first love and serve himself. Bob decided to start setting boundaries. He began saying no to requests that drained his energy and didn't align with his personal peace. At first, there was guilt. After all, he had always been the helpful one, the one who was relied upon. But as Bob embraced these boundaries, he found a surprising thing. His family and friends began to respect him even more. They saw him not as someone who was constantly available, but as someone who valued his own time and well-being, and they started to do the same. Buddhism teaches us that right intention is a key aspect of healthy living. Setting boundaries is not about being harsh or unkind. It's about being intentional with your time and energy. It's about choosing to say yes only to the things that truly nourish your spirit and contribute to your peace. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. They allow you to give with intention, not obligation, and they protect your energy so that when you do offer your help, you are doing so from a place of joy and strength, not exhaustion or resentment. Remember, saying no is not a rejection of love. It's an affirmation of self-care. You deserve to protect your energy. When you honor your boundaries, you teach others how to respect you, and in doing so, you create space for deeper, more meaningful connections. Protect your energy, for it is sacred, and it deserves to be guarded with care. 3. Preserve your inner peace. In a world that is constantly demanding, especially as we grow older, the need for inner peace becomes not just a luxury, but a necessity. As we reach our 60s and 70s, we have seen so much experienced countless ups and downs, and weathered many storms. It's only natural that we begin to crave moments of calm, of stillness, where the noise of the world quiets down, and we can simply be at peace with ourselves. Yet, despite this deep need for tranquility, we often allow the chaos of others to become our own. We become entangled in family dramas, drawn into arguments that don't belong to us, or swept up in worries that are not ours to bear. Buddhist teachings remind us that we are the gatekeepers of our own peace. We have the power to choose what enters our mind, what takes up space in our hearts, and what we give our attention to. Take the story of Rose, a 77-year-old grandmother who had spent much of her life mediating family conflicts. Whether it was a disagreement between her children, a falling out with a friend, or a tense moment at a family gathering, Rose always felt responsible for smoothing things over. At first it seemed natural. After all, she loved her family and wanted peace. But over time, she began to feel like an emotional sponge, soaking up the stress and pain of everyone around her, leaving little room for her own peace of mind. One day, Rose's son called her in the middle of an argument with his sister, demanding that she intervene. In that moment, something shifted within her. She realized that, as much as she loved her children, her own well-being mattered too. She didn't have to fix every problem, nor should she absorb the stress of every situation. Rose gently told her son, "I love you both, but I can't be the peacekeeper anymore. I need to preserve my own peace." At first, her family was taken aback. They didn't understand why she wouldn't get involved, but Rose stuck to her decision, and over time, they learned to respect her boundaries. What's more, by protecting her own peace, Rose found that she could offer much more, emotionally and mentally, when she did engage with her family. Her calm presence became a source of strength, not because she fixed everything, but because she had learned to maintain her own peace amidst the chaos. Buddhism teaches us that mindfulness and detachment are essential for inner peace. This doesn't mean withdrawing from the world or ignoring the struggles of others. It simply means not letting those struggles disrupt your equilibrium. You can be compassionate without losing yourself in others' emotions. True peace comes from the ability to observe life's challenges without becoming overwhelmed by them. As you grow older, you have earned the right to protect your peace. Walk away from situations that cause unnecessary stress. Set boundaries with people who bring chaos into your life. Choose silence over argument, rest over worry. The peace you cultivate within yourself radiates outward, and by preserving it, you not only enhance your own life, but also become a quiet beacon of calm for those around you. Remember, peace of mind isn't something you have to earn. It's something you've already been granted by simply existing. It's yours to protect. Guard it fiercely and let it guide you through the remaining years of your life with grace, clarity, and contentment. 4. Protect your financial security. As we approach the later years of our lives, it becomes even more important to consider our financial security. It's easy to feel as though our wealth is meant to be shared, whether it's helping out a child, giving to a grandchild's education, or contributing to the needs of loved ones. But as we age, the true value of financial independence becomes clear. It's not just about wealth, it's about freedom. In Buddhist philosophy, we are taught the concept of right livelihood, which encourages us to live with integrity and balance. It's not about amassing wealth for the sake of status or possessions, but about ensuring that we have enough to live comfortably, to meet our needs, and to maintain our sense of security. Financial freedom allows us to make choices that align with our values and live authentically, without the burden of worry or fear about the future. Take the example of Mala, a a 75-year-old woman who had spent her life helping others, financially and otherwise. She raised her children as a single mother, helping them with everything from school tuition to down payments on their first homes. Over the years, Marla gave generously to family members in need, never once questioning the strain it might place on her own savings. But one day, she began to feel the weight of her choices. As Marla entered her mid-70s, she realized she had been dipping into her retirement funds too often to help her children who were still struggling financially. She had always felt guilty for not doing more, but now, as her own medical bills started to rise, the anxiety over her finances grew. One evening, after a particularly stressful day of budgeting, Marla sat quietly, reflecting on what she had built over her lifetime. She realized that her financial security wasn't just about having enough money, it was about having the peace of mind that came with knowing she could take care of herself in the years to come. Marla decided to make a change. She set new boundaries, carefully reviewing her finances and determining how much she could afford to give without compromising her own needs. It wasn't easy, especially when family members would ask for help, but Marla knew that protecting her own financial well-being was not selfish. It was necessary. By setting these boundaries, Marla created a sense of security for herself. She could now enjoy her retirement, knowing she had the resources to support her own health and happiness. And as it turned out, her family respected her more for it. They recognized that by safeguarding her own financial future, she was teaching them the importance of self-sufficiency and financial responsibility. In Buddhism, we learn that attachment to material wealth leads to suffering, yet right understanding of its role in our lives enables us to use money in ways that foster true well-being, not only for ourselves but for others. Financial independence allows us to live with dignity and peace, free from the fear of not having enough, and it empowers us to make decisions that align with our deepest values. Your financial security isn't just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about ensuring that you can live with peace of mind. It's about knowing that you have the resources to support yourself and maintain your freedom, without the pressure of constantly giving more than you can afford. So as you move forward, remember this: you've worked hard to get to where you are. Your financial well-being is not something to be given away lightly. Protect it, cherish it, and remember that by doing so, you create the space to live freely, authentically, and joyfully. 5. Honor your dignity and self-respect. As the years go by, one of the most profound gifts we can give ourselves is the unwavering recognition of our own dignity and self-respect. In a world that often demands conformity, approval, and validation from others, it can be all too easy to compromise on who we truly are, just to keep the peace or avoid conflict. However, as we age, we come to understand that our self-worth is not up for negotiation. It is not based on what others think of us, but on how we carry ourselves with grace, integrity, and authenticity. Buddhism teaches that true dignity comes from within. It's about being in alignment with our values, being honest with ourselves, and honoring our unique journey, no matter what others may say or do. The Buddha often spoke of the importance of right conduct, living in a way that reflects our deepest truth, and respecting ourselves enough to not tolerate mistreatment or disrespect. Take the story of Alan, an 82-year-old man who had always been a quiet, reserved soul. Throughout his life, he had dealt with people making comments about his age, his independence, and his lifestyle choices. For years, Alan remained silent, trying to avoid confrontation, thinking that it wasn't worth speaking up. But as time passed, he began to feel a slow erosion of his self-respect. The snide remarks from neighbors about his ability to take care of his own lawn, or the passive-aggressive comments about his decision to still drive, started to chip away at his confidence. One day, after a particularly hurtful remark from his neighbor, Alan sat down and reflected. In that quiet moment, he realized that he had been allowing others to define his worth, based on their own narrow views and judgments. That was when he decided enough was enough. With a calm but firm voice, Alan told his neighbor, "I take pride in my ability to care for myself, and I would appreciate it if you didn't comment on my choices." It wasn't said with anger or frustration, but with the quiet strength that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone diminish your worth. That day, Alan stood a little taller, not because he had won an argument, but because he had reclaimed his dignity. He had honored himself by speaking his truth, and in doing so, he earned the respect of others. His neighbor, while initially surprised, came to respect him more for it, and Alan found peace in knowing that he would no longer tolerate disrespect in any form. In Buddhism, there is a powerful teaching about mindful speech, using our words not to harm, but to express ourselves clearly and with compassion. Alan's decision to speak up wasn't about confrontation, it was about asserting his right to be respected. And in Buddhism, this is an act of right speech. It's about speaking our truth with kindness and maintaining our dignity, even in the face of criticism. As we grow older, we no longer need to seek validation from others. Our dignity is something we've earned through years of experience, wisdom, and living authentically. Don't allow anyone to define you by their standards. You have the right to live your life on your terms, to make choices that align with your values, and to expect respect from those around you. Your dignity is a reflection of your true self. It is the foundation of your peace and your sense of worth. Honor it, protect it, and never let anyone take it from you. When you stand firm in your own self-respect, you not only enhance your own life, but also inspire others to do the same. 6. Choose your freedom to live authentically. As we journey through life, one of the greatest privileges of aging is the freedom to live authentically. After decades of living for others, whether as a parent, spouse, friend, or colleague, there comes a time when we can finally stop and ask ourselves, what do I truly want? This freedom to make choices that align with our deepest desires is one of the most precious gifts we can give ourselves in our later years. In Buddhism, living authentically is a core principle. The Buddha taught that true freedom comes not from the world around us, but from within. It is the liberation that arises from letting go of attachments, societal expectations, and the need to seek approval. When we live authentically, we honor our true selves, and this is where true peace and joy reside. Consider the story of Barbara, a 79-year-old woman who, after spending most of her life in the hustle and bustle of the city, realized that she had been living her life according to others' expectations. Her children, her friends, even society at large, had all shaped her choices, from where to live to how to spend her free time. But after decades of doing what was expected, Barbara finally asked herself a simple yet powerful question: what do I want? Barbara's answer came to her slowly, like the soft murmur of a river finding its course. She had always dreamed of living by the coast, away from the city's noise and chaos. For years, she had pushed this dream aside, telling herself that it was too late, that she couldn't possibly disrupt her comfortable, familiar life. But one day, after a long winter of feeling emotionally drained and physically exhausted, she decided that the time had come. Barbara packed her bags, moved to a quiet beach town, and for the first time in years, felt like she could breathe freely. She spent her mornings walking along the shore, reading by the sea, and spending time with neighbors who respected her choices. Her children, while initially shocked by her decision, came to visit her on her terms, at her peaceful beach house, in a space that was hers and hers alone. This decision wasn't about abandoning her family or her past. It was about reclaiming her freedom to live authentically. Barbara had spent her life being everything to everyone else, and now she was finally allowing herself to be her own person, to live for herself, to pursue the dreams that had always lived quietly in her heart. In Buddhism, there is a teaching on detachment, which doesn't mean giving up the people or things we love, but rather letting go of the need for approval and external validation. It's about living with the courage to pursue what feels right for you, free from the fear of judgment. It's about trusting that your own desires and dreams are just as important as the needs of others. When we live authentically, we align our actions with our values, and this brings a deep sense of fulfillment and peace. You deserve to live in a way that feels true to your heart, whether that means traveling, simplifying your life, or making changes that bring you joy. Don't let age be a reason to hold back. Let it be a reason to embrace your freedom. You are the author of your own story. You've lived many chapters for others, but now it's time to write the final chapters for yourself. Your life is yours to shape, and the choices you make today can bring you the peace and contentment you've longed for. Don't wait for permission to live authentically. Give it to yourself. Your freedom is your birthright, and it's never too late to claim it. As we move through life, especially after 65, it's not about retreating from the world or those we love. It's about learning to turn toward ourselves with the same love and respect that we've so freely given to others throughout the years. By protecting these 6 invaluable things, your health, boundaries, peace of mind, financial security, dignity and freedom to live authentically, you are not only honoring your own life, but also setting a beautiful example for others to follow. In Buddhist philosophy, living rightly isn't about seeking approval or trying to please everyone. It's about embracing clarity, peace, and integrity, and walking your path with a sense of purpose. When we practice this, we can truly experience freedom and joy in our later years, free from the burdens of guilt or self-sacrifice. So, I encourage you to reflect. Are there areas of your life where you've been sacrificing too much? What would happen if you started protecting what truly matters to you? Remember, you've earned the right to live for yourself. By nurturing these 6 precious things, you create space for more peace, joy, and fulfillment. You've spent a lifetime giving to others. It's now time to honor yourself. Thank you for being with us today on this journey of wisdom. If you found these insights valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts with us in the comments below. What resonated with you the most? We'd love to hear your reflections. Stay true to yourself, and we look forward to continuing this journey of quiet wisdom together.